Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story of cosmic proportions, a really detailed plan for creation that stretches all the way from a rebellion in heaven to the ultimate destiny of the entire universe. And it's all trying to answer one of the biggest questions you could possibly ask.
So, here's the central puzzle. If creation started out perfect, why on earth would it need a rescue plan? Think about it. The text we're digging into today argues that this wasn't a flaw, not at all. Instead, it was a deliberate, super high-stakes process designed to refine the most powerful and maybe the most dangerous gift imaginable: free will.
So, our story doesn't start with humanity or Earth. Nope. It begins way before all that, in a perfect, angelic realm. This was stage one, the very first test, where the entire nature of God's rule was about to be challenged. Here's how things were set up at the very beginning. First, God creates angels. Then, he gives them this radical gift of free will. We're talking true independence. And the only rule in this perfect society? Love. But you can probably see the risk here, right? A will that is truly free can also choose not to love. And that's exactly what happened. This desire, I will make myself like the Most High, it comes from a powerful angel we know as Hillel. It was fueled by pride, and his ambition wasn't just to seize power, it was to become God's equal. So this wasn't a military coup, it was an ideological war. Hillel was basically challenging the very idea that a government founded on love could even work, suggesting it was weak and flawed. And you know what? Hillel's argument was tragically effective. He convinced a huge number of angels to join him, splitting heaven in two. The rebels were confined, but this created what the text presents as a cosmic legal dilemma. See, if God just destroyed them, it could look like tyranny. To prove his way was just, he needed to let the case play out, settling it not with force, but with evidence. So, with the battle lines drawn in the heavens, the conflict moves to a completely new arena. Earth becomes the stage. And humanity? Well, we become the key players in a test designed to settle this cosmic argument for good. And this is where Adam enters the picture. Humanity, created in God's image, was given a very specific purpose: to demonstrate that a being with free will could and would choose to obey God's command of love. Humanity was meant to succeed where Hillel, who we now call Satan, had failed. But of course, this new test on Earth immediately became the target of that original rebel. Satan brought his cosmic argument right down to this new world, and he was determined to prove that no freely willed creature would ever willingly choose God's way. Satan's strategy was a direct attack on God's character. He twisted God's command, first by introducing doubt, and then by dangling the very same temptation that caused his own fall, the promise of becoming like God. It was a direct appeal to human pride. Now, according to this text, while Eve was deceived, Adam's choice was different. It was deliberate. Driven by his love for her and refusing to be separated, he knowingly chose to disobey. And with that single act, humanity failed its test. In doing so, it legally handed over dominion of the earth to Satan. But this catastrophic failure wasn't the end, not even close. It was actually the trigger for the next phase of the plan, a long, intricate path to redemption designed to methodically win back every single thing that had just been lost. And this path unfolded over millennia. It started with an initial covenant using animal sacrifices, sort of a temporary cover for sin. That was followed by the law given to Moses, which acted like a diagnostic tool, really, just making humanity aware of its own failings. Both of these stages were just pointing toward the final solution, a new covenant, one established not by the blood of animals, but by Christ's sacrifice, which would ultimately produce the first fruits of a new creation. And this is the role of the second Adam. Christ came as a human to do what the first Adam failed to do. His perfect obedience, even to the point of death, served as the ultimate legal rebuttal to Satan's claim. It paid the price for Adam's failure, and it proved that God's government of love was not only right, but possible. His resurrection was the final verdict, conquering death itself. His resurrection made him the first fruits. You can think of it like the first perfect crop from a harvest, proving the quality of all that's going to follow. And this victory wasn't just personal. It opened a path for others, called saints, to follow his example and become part of this initial harvest of perfected humanity. Okay, so once the full number of these first fruits has been gathered, the cosmic plan just hurtles towards its climactic final act. Everything that has happened so far has been leading to this exact moment.
The next stage involves Satan being bound and imprisoned for 1,000 years. This period, known as the Sabbath reign, is a time of peace on earth. It's designed to be a living demonstration of what the world is like when it's free from his corrupting influence.
But this peaceful millennium isn't the final step. The plan requires one last definitive piece of evidence. So at the end of the 1,000 years, Satan is released for a short time. And the purpose is to prove, beyond any doubt, the unchanging nature of rebellion, and in doing so, justify the finality of God's judgment.
This is how the final conflict plays out. As soon as Satan is released, he deceives the nations into one last rebellion. It's swiftly defeated, and then the final judgment begins. And it's not just about the rebels. In the ultimate act of restoration, death itself is thrown into the lake of fire. With the very concept of death destroyed, the cosmic conflict is settled for good.
So, with rebellion judged, sin eradicated, and death itself destroyed, the original purpose of creation can finally be realized. This is the restoration of all things.
Here, at last, is the final resolution. Sin has been purged. Death has been destroyed. The free will of all creation is now perfected, choosing to align with God's love without any coercion. The Son then presents this restored kingdom to the Father, allowing God to be all in all, his presence completely and perfectly filling a universe that has finally passed its ultimate test.
And so we end right back where we started, with a really powerful question. This entire cosmic saga, from rebellion and failure all the way to redemption and judgment, it's presented not as a tragedy, but as the necessary forge for perfecting free will. It suggests that the immense, painful struggle was the only process that could create something so immeasurably valuable in the end.